Hey guys, welcome to another episode of SoTellUs Time. We are so excited because today we're going to be sharing with you guys a program that literally runs our business. We could not run our business without this system. I told you guys about it on our Instagram coming up, that we had a special guest coming and we're so excited to have him as well. We're going to introduce him in just a second, but first, this system literally sends out 100,000 emails a month for us to clients, existing clients, potential clients. It does all of our recurring billing, so it bills millions of dollars for us. It actually does billing follow-up emails with us. So let's say a credit card doesn't go through, it's going to send out an email. The other thing it does is we have a pre-recorded voice blast that goes out. So people call up all the time. Oh my gosh, Troy, I'm so sorry. I missed your call and I didn't realize my credit card expired. Let me get you that new credit card. I mean, it's amazing. It is our sales system. So this is our campaign. Our whole sales team runs off of this system. It is absolutely amazing. And I can literally take a brand new sales guy, stick him in a chair, give him this campaign, and he just goes through it and he starts closing 87% right off the bat. It's absolutely amazing. This tracks all of our referral partners and our commissions that we pay out to everybody. It manages tasks with our success coaches. It gives them reminders and emails and calls, and it just does so much. It's amazing. And so obviously some of you already know what it is, but the program that we're talking about here is Infusionsoft. And our special guest, an amazing man, a wizard when it comes to business, is Clate Mask. Clate, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hey, great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's so fun to have you. We were just talking before we actually jumped on the podcast, and I'm like, man, we should have just hit record because that was so much fun.
That was good stuff.
I mean, it was really good. And Clate, let me tell you a little bit about Clate real quick. He's got a bachelor's from ASU and an MBA from BYU. He is a master when it comes to business. He is a CEO and founder of Infusionsoft, which we all know now is called Keep. And in fact, actually at this stage, Clate, what we want to do here is get ready for this podcast because, you know, we just are super fans over here. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that Infusionsoft has now switched over, or has Keep, right? Is it switched over to Keep? Or
no,
is it a branch of Keep?
We still have an Infusionsoft product called Infusionsoft, and it's actually the high end of our product line. So Keep is the name of the company, and because Keep is the easier, lighter product that more small businesses over time will come in on, we decided to name the company Keep. But Infusionsoft is the high-end version of our software.
Yes. And Infusionsoft is exactly what we use. And that's why I'm so excited about this podcast and the release of Keep, right? And these new versions. Because for years, people would say, hey, what system do you guys use to run your business? And honestly, our clientele are anywhere from small to medium-sized businesses. Yes, we have some very multi-million-dollar big businesses out there. But our bread and butter of who we're really helping is these small to medium-sized businesses. And Infusionsoft, honestly, was so robust, and it was amazing for us. If you were doing millions of dollars, or if you were just like specifically like this marketer, right? It was an amazing product. But if you were, let's say, a carpet cleaner or, you know, a home inspector or something like that, it was probably a little bit more, a little much. And
I might have heard that a time or two.
yes. And so it's just so exciting to know that Infusionsoft has gone in this direction where, and we're going to get into this a little bit more down the road in this podcast, but you know, just to kind of give a little teaser, it is going in a direction that it doesn't matter if you are a one-man show wearing all the hats, whoop, 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 and you, for our podcast listeners, by the way, what we did back there was when we said we had to get ready for the show is we put our Keep hats on. So Troy and I have some awesome Keep hats, and we put our Keep hats on, and Clate didn't know we were going to do that, so he was super stoked that we did that. Brand awareness. And so anyways, they've got, it doesn't matter if you are a one-man show wearing all the hats, or if you've got 5 trucks or 100 trucks or 500 trucks, they have levels now that are appropriate for each individual and how they're growing their business and where they're at in their business. And then it can grow with them. Isn't that right?
That's right.
That's amazing. That's so awesome. So Infusionsoft, if anybody doesn't know what Infusionsoft is, like I said, it runs our business. I told you all the things that it does for us. They have been in business now for 19 years. They have over 200,000 clients. So they're not little by any means. They're out there crushing it. They are probably, and I honestly feel like, for me at least, they are the #1 marketing system that also helps businesses with more than just that. Because again, our billing. It takes care of our billing for us. You know, we're not using QuickBooks to do the billing. We are using Infusionsoft, and we're just processing millions of dollars. So all of our sales go through Infusionsoft and the order forms that we've created through Infusionsoft. And they have actually raised $125 million, right, in funding.
That's right.
From VC. That's amazing. And listen, people might think like, oh, you just got money. Well, guess what? It's not easy to go out and get money.
Well, and the other thing is we built the business to $7 million a year before we raised the venture capital. So sometimes, whenever people are like, oh, you don't really get entrepreneur, you don't really get what it is to be a small business. I'm like, oh, you want to bet? I was there. I'd been there from the beginning. I understand the struggles and the challenges.
Yes.
And it's also true that raising capital just brings there's some new challenges. Yes. They're nice challenges to have. I'll grant that, but it's hard. It's hard to know exactly how to use those dollars in the right way. So we understand what it is to bootstrap a business. We understand what it is to have venture capital behind us. And the reason we raised venture capital was that we got to a place where at a $7 million business, as the sales and marketing software to help small businesses, we could see there was an opportunity to do something really, really big.
Yeah.
And that's why we raised capital.
It's so cool. And that's the thing is that's what people don't understand is, well, first off, I mean, talking about VC, we've said it before, it's like you had to work extra hard now. You actually had to work harder because you went from being the boss to having some bosses.
Yeah, you have a boss.
Right?
I mean, that's something, that's the thing that's challenging. And a lot of entrepreneurs don't, when they say, I don't know if I want to raise capital. It's like, yeah, you really should think about it because most entrepreneurs started out because they didn't want to have a boss, and you raise capital, you have a boss.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, we have told these stories a million times, but we have several friends who had anywhere from 50 to $100+ million companies and lost them to their VC guys because they weren't able to perform.
Right.
And it went a different direction.
Yep.
And so you have to really think of like, you got to make sure and prepare and plan that you are ready for venture capital and everything that comes with it.
Right.
I mean, in fact, it was actually interesting. I was just talking with Trevor today. I got off a phone call and someone was offering us money for VC, and he's like, "Hey, do you guys need money to this, that, the other?" And I'm like, "No, not right now. Things are going good. We're on track for what we want to do." And I kind of told him our plan, and he's like, "Oh, great, yeah, no, you guys are doing good." He's like, "But when you're ready, hit me up because we've got the money for you." And like
he even
you said,
tried to
you have
entice
to be,
us, right?
He
even tried to entice us. He tried to say, "Hey, listen, if you just want to take money, if you just want to literally pay yourselves, you can give up a piece to me."
Right.
And I'm like, "No, I'm okay."
So I'm glad you said that because there's the right time and the wrong time for VC.
Yes, definitely.
And that's the thing, and venture capital could be in our future. It's just not right now.
Yeah.
We've got the game plan, and when we're ready, and when we hit that ceiling of where it's like, you know what, we just need more fuel for the fire. We'll probably take that plunge if it comes to that.
Yeah.
If we don't get bought before then, of course.
Yeah, you have to have to raise capital. You've got to get comfortable with perform or get replaced.
Yep.
You got to, and that's not a comfortable place to be for most people.
No.
You've got to have a vision that will enable you to build a really big business because they don't want to put money into something that's going to grow to a few $1 million. They want to see, hey, you can grow this thing to $25, $50, $100 million in annual sales.
Yep.
And if you don't have a vision that you can see that that's possible, then you shouldn't raise venture capital. It's not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem is that we've all got Shark Tank that we watch now. So everybody's like, "Oh, I've got this idea and I want everyone to invest in it." And people are like, "No, I'm not going to invest in that. It doesn't even make any money." Like, come on, show it. And that's I'm really glad that you shared that because a lot of people do. They see it as like, "Oh, well, Infusionsoft doesn't know. They've raised $125 million and you grew it to $7 million." Right. I mean, that is an accomplishment in and of itself. And you had struggles. So, why did you start Infusionsoft in the first place?
So we were creating custom sales and marketing software for small businesses. By the way, it's 18 years, not 19, but who's counting? That's right. But for the first 3 years, it really was. We weren't doing exactly what we do today. We were serving small businesses, and we were doing sales and marketing software, but it was custom. We were trading hours for dollars, and gradually we were able to shift that to create a product. So whether it was the custom service work we did or the product, or the first product we had, which is the precursor to what we have today, it was always about helping small businesses grow.
Yes.
And we recognized how challenging it was. People were generating leads online. They were doing different things, and they didn't have a system to manage those leads effectively. They didn't have a system to manage their clients effectively. And most of all, they were wearing all the hats trying to do things, but they were disorganized and they were dropping the ball. Things were slipping through the cracks and they knew it.
Yep.
And it was almost like as they were starting to have some more success, they would bump into the challenge of not being able to juggle all the balls, not being able to wear all the hats.
Yep.
And we could see that, and we realized creating a system to help people manage their clients and their leads and follow up effectively was a total game changer, and especially if you could create that system to have automation.
Yeah.
Because every small business is strapped for time.
Yeah.
And so what happened was we recognized that small businesses needed this, and then our customers started to have some success with it. We made that transition from custom software to a product.
Yeah. Yep.
And then the real key was when we started using it ourselves.
Right.
Nice.
And and it's so funny too, because before the show we were talking about how you're like, man, because like I said, Infusionsoft is very robust at this point. It does so much. It runs, and we literally could not keep up with. You have 200,000 customers. I've only got 3,400 customers. And I remember we started. I mean, so far back with you guys, it's been how many years, Troy? It was since 2005, I think. Since 2005, we've been with Infusionsoft. And back then was just back when we were doing our little website and marketing company, And the funny thing is with just like 4 people, we grew that company to like 1,200 clients.
That's awesome.
In 12 countries.
So great. Yeah.
With 4 of us.
Yeah.
And we literally have competitors that they have how many customers?
Yeah, so it was my sister-in-law worked for another company that did similar work, but for doctors. And she's like, man, she goes, how many customers do you guys have? And I was like, oh, we have like 1,200 customers. And she's like, oh my gosh. She goes, how many employees do you have? And I'm like, we have like 3, I think. And she's like,
we just
what?
hired somebody. Yeah.
She's like, we have like 250 clients and we have 50 employees and we can't keep up with the work. And she's like, how in the world are you doing it? And I'm like, it's all automated. Like our clients think that we're touching them and doing all these things for them, which we're doing work for them. But all of that other stuff that your guys are doing, picking up the phone and doing all that.
Putting bodies in place.
Yeah, it's just automated for us.
Yeah.
They feel like there's 100 of us touching them all the time, but it was Infusionsoft doing all the work.
And literally Troy's on the call and she's like, well, what is it? And I said, shh. I said, do not tell them. You do not tell her. So I'm sorry, Clate. We cost you a sale. We definitely did, because I was like, no way.
That's all right. That's all right. No, but when you get right down to it, what we have our purpose is to help small businesses succeed. We have a ton of passion around that. But what we experienced ourselves trying to get the business going and going through those early stages, and what we saw our customers dealing with all the time was just the lack of time, a system, and the know-how to follow up the right way.
Yeah.
And when follow-up doesn't happen, the business struggles. So when it's amazing, I look at when small businesses put follow-up in place, it changes everything. But the reason they don't do it is because they don't have a system to it. You can't manually follow up enough. You can't do it.
Yeah.
And so putting a system in place to do your follow-up for you in a really personalized way where it's automated, it's a total game changer in customer acquisition, in client management and client satisfaction. You can do it in
retention,
in fulfillment, retention, billing. I mean, you name it. There are so many places where you can apply personalized automated follow-up in a small business to grow the business and save you time. So that's why we do what we do. We love it. We're super passionate about it. And that's why we started Infusionsoft.
That's so cool.
Awesome. Well, let me give you a real good kind of experience from my own life with what you're talking about with the follow-up and how important that is. So I have some rental properties, and one of my rental properties need to be renovated after a tenant moved out. And so I got 5 quotes. They range anywhere from like $18,000 to $35,000 to do this renovation. And no lie, 5 different companies.
I know.
Only one followed up. And
you don't have to tell me. I know exactly.
It blew my mind. I told my wife, I said, wait, you're telling me that the guy that quoted me $35,000 never called back, never sent a text, never sent an email, never asked, like, hey, did you have any questions on the quote he sent me? Nothing.
No, it's epidemic. I mean, it's and I've had these conversations with people and say, how can they stay in business doing this?
Yes.
Well, it's that they're so busy. And they're wearing so many different hats, and you can't fault the business owner when you stop and think it. If you've been through it, if you haven't been through it, your wife's probably like, what the heck? How could they 30? This is real money, and they're not following up. I can't get them back on the phone. But what happens is if you've been in it, you realize, man, you've got your information spread in a bunch of different places.
Yes. Yep.
You don't have it all in one place, so you've got no centralized data. Like it's just all spread out. You've got a bunch of things that you're trying to keep in your mind. You forget things, stuff slipping through the cracks. You just can't stay on top of it. And so you start to realize, oh, this is how it happens. And business owners start to feel that frustration of, man, I pride myself on giving good service, and I try to differentiate myself from the big guys by being so personal.
Yeah.
And yet, when you don't have a system, you can't keep up with it.
No. And which one did you go with?
I went with the one guy that followed up, which was not the $35,000 guy. Like that guy, if he would have been the one that followed up, he's the one I would have gone with, and we made an extra $35,000 that month.
I mean, it's crazy. And the thing is another thing that we do is when we're traveling and speaking and educating and doing all this stuff, we do a lot of consulting, and our listeners know this. And it's amazing as we walk in the door and we're like, okay, so in order to get your marketing budget, we really need to know this number and this number. So show me what your marketing budget. And like when we start throwing this, they're like, what number? No, what? Hold on, let me get the folder out of my drawer. And there's this invoice and this invoice. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me! You're still running off everything on paper invoices and these companies, and you can't fault them because it's the way they've always done it.
Sure.
But what they don't realize is there is so many simple ways to take it online and then manage it way better than they ever could have.
Right.
I couldn't do everything that I do without a system in place to do that for me.
Right.
It's funny. And so all the time people are just like, well, what do you guys do? And we're like, well, hey, check this out. This is Infusionsoft. So I promise I have made up for the one sale I cost you by probably thousands of sales.
You're totally fine. And like you said, we were talking before, the reason it's so fun for us now is because for a long time, it was like, if you're not an established business or a marketer, Infusionsoft wasn't going to be right for you. And it's still true. Like Infusionsoft is the high-end version of our product that has all the bells and whistles, all the automation, and you need to be more of a marketing savvy entrepreneur or a more established business where you have somebody that can run it for you. And if you don't have those things, then Infusionsoft is going to be really challenging. People might call it Confusionsoft. I've heard that one a time or two.
Never heard that before. That's just ridiculous.
But it's true. If you're not a marketer, you're not a more established business, it's going to be confusing for you. It is. And so for a long time, that was the product that we used to build and grow the business to nearly $100 million in sales.
It's awesome.
But we recognized that for us to achieve the bigger mission of our company, which is to simplify growth for 5 million small businesses worldwide by 2030, we had to create a lighter, easier version of the software. And that's been the both thrilling, challenging, maddening work of the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It's so funny because as you play at these different levels, you do realize that. Like when we built Infusionsoft, when you built Infusionsoft, when we built SoTellUs, I can't take claim for building Infusionsoft. I didn't, work out of the little closet. I do love your guys' first story of like this little scary, dark, dingy place that nobody really wanted to show up to.
It was dingy.
But I love that story. But when we were building SoTellUs, it was the same thing. You have this vision of what you're going to start, and it's going to be this thing that's going to be so simple and so easy, and it's going to just like help these small businesses and all this. But then as you go, your clients are like, hey, can I do this? And can we do this? And you start getting all this thing. And then all of a sudden it grows into something that's like massive. And see, Infusionsoft didn't start massive. It grew into that. And then, and so by the time it had its wheels really spinning, it was massive. And everybody's like, whoa, I don't know if this is good. It's too big for me. We did the same thing with SoTellUs. It was like, we started with this super simple little thing, but very quickly we were like, boom, boom, boom. And when you have developers on staff, you just are like building stuff, and it's just awesome. And then we actually had to do the same thing, step back and say, whoa. We had to create SoTellUs Lite because we had to create something that was like, we went so far into like referrals and reputation and all this other stuff, that we had to bring it back down. And that's really what ends up happening is you're starting to play at these bigger levels. And then it's almost like we have to be reminded like, no, hold on. There's all these people down here that we actually started with that we wanted. This was where we really were focused. But now, we got to get back to helping those guys because that's the most rewarding. Listen, we have been with clients that do $160 million a year, and I wish they were faithful people. I wish the clients that we take from 60 million to 120 million, I wish that they had such loyalty and gratitude for us and everything like that. But, it's funny when they're playing at a certain level, they always think, oh, well, now I want a jet. And so, the funny thing is it's like, but then you go down and you take that same knowledge, and we started helping the little guys. and the gratitude. When we took a guy from $50,000 to $150,000, I mean, he cried,
right.
And when
right.
we took this guy from $150,000 to $1.5 million, and he called us because he was on vacation with his wife, and he literally got teary-eyed and choked up, and he's like, "No, guys, I'm on vacation for the first time in 7 years with my wife, and it's because you guys," that's where the gratification comes in.
Right.
I mean,
totally.
that's where you really make a difference, and it's so exciting, and that's the direction Keep is coming back around to now.
That's right.
And that's really cool. So in the beginning, and we're kind of jumping all over the place, but that's okay. But in the beginning, it wasn't all easy peasy. People like to look at when you win.
Right.
They like to look at like, oh, they're so big and they're just whatever. They don't realize the 10 years that went into it of like maddening, mortgaging your house or putting every credit card,
right.
People stop giving you credit cards because you can't get credit anymore, right?
I know that's true.
So what was one of the big struggles that Infusionsoft, especially in its early years, had to overcome to then be able to get to that $7 million point?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had to learn how to sell systematically. That was the first real hurdle when we were just struggling, and it was a day-to-day fight for survival. And so I started to learn how to sell, but in that process I realized, okay, I got to a point where I was good at being able to sell a prospect that was, that had some interest. But then what about taking someone that you didn't know, somebody that's first brand new fresh lead that's never heard of you, doesn't have any, isn't going to buy because they know your mom or something like that. How do you take that lead and move them through a process that gets them ready to buy, and then you have that conversation, or they buy online. So that was really the thing we had to get through, which ironically is exactly what we were helping our customers through.
Right.
And so after about a year and a half, we had developed our first product. So we used to be custom software. That's how we started, trading hours for dollars. Then we created our first product, and we had customers who started using these automated campaigns that we had built for them.
Yeah.
And I was managing my sales leads, and I wasn't using the automated campaigns. and we had customers that were like starting to tell us, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing."
Yeah.
And I was hearing it for a while, and my two partners were like, "Why don't you use our stuff?" And I'm like, "Well, I am using it because I was using it for the contact management and the CRM, the tracking notes and tasks and tracking my leads and having my hot list and my negotiate, all the different lists I used, but I wasn't using the marketing automation capabilities."
Yeah.
So after hearing our customers start to rave about it, I was like, okay, I got to do this. And then I realized, well, how am I going to find the time to write the campaigns? And I couldn't find the time to write the campaigns.
Yep.
So one night, my wife was like, "Hey, what are we going to do for Christmas presents this year?" And you have to understand, I think any entrepreneur who's listening to this can relate. But we were about a year and a half to 2 years into the business at this point. Yeah. And we were dying. I mean, we had no money whatsoever. Yeah. We were taking home about $2,000 a month. We had 4 kids. I had $100,000 of student debt. We were dying, racking up. When I said I know they won't give you any more credit, we had maxed out all the credit cards, and we had nothing.
It's like you're telling my story.
So when Cherise said to me, "What are we going to do for Christmas presents?" I said, I don't know, and I just felt it. It was just one of those moments where I was just like, "This sucks." And I said, "I don't know, hun." And she said, "Okay, well, I'm gonna do some bracelets." So when we were in college, she had learned how to make bracelets, and she would have people come over and they'd order it beforehand, and she'd buy all the parts and she'd make it, and then she'd sell it and make a little money.
Yeah.
So she said, "I'm gonna do a bracelet party." I said, "Great, that sounds awesome." She said, "I think I can make a few $100 and we can buy stuff for our kids."
Yeah.
So when the night she had that party, I thought, this is the perfect time for me to write my first campaign.
Yeah.
So I sat up in the loft while she and a bunch of friends were downstairs, choosing bracelets and making orders. And I had decided I was going to write this 6-step campaign. And I learned that it's really hard to write a 6-step campaign. So what I did do is I sort of built out the steps, and then I wrote the first step, because I realized, if this is going to go out weekly, I just have to get the first step done.
Right.
And as long as, and I can go load contacts into this campaign, get it going. And as long as I write the second step before day 7, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
So it forced me to get the campaign started. I wrote the first piece. I went into the office the next day. We had about 1,500 leads that we had generated over time. And I started to put all the leads in. I thought, I'm just going to put a third of them in. I'm going to put a third in a couple of days and a third in a couple of days later. And so I did that. And about a week later, and then I wrote the next piece a week later. Well, after people started receiving the second piece, I got people calling me. They would email or they would call. And you have to understand that my sales process prior to that was many calls, a lot, hours and hours of conversations. Let me now get my business partner on the phone, like all of this stuff. And I was just, burning the hours talking to people, trying to persuade them to buy our software.
Yep.
And so when a prospect called me up and said, hey, I've been getting your stuff. I'm pretty interested. I got a few questions. I answered the questions and he said, okay, let's give it a shot. And no joke, I was like, wait, what the heck? Like, what just happened? I didn't have order forms or anything. I was just like, okay, like.
You're like, so I'm sorry, but we have to have at least 3 more phone calls before you can close.
Exactly. So I took the order. I went into my partners and I said, hey, you got to, and I told them what happened. And they were software developers, and they're like, hey, okay, great, good job.
Cool.
And yeah.
And you're like,
so
no, you don't understand.
I walk out thinking, man, this was amazing. Well, a couple of days later, it happened again.
Yeah.
And another customer, another prospect, and this person called up and said, hey, I've been getting your stuff. You know what? I think I'm ready to do this. Let's go.
That's awesome.
And I took the order, and I went into them and I said, guys, this just happened. And they were like, hey, good. And they and I was like, no, this is amazing. Well, it happened a few days later. And when it happened the third time, I went in and I was like, turn around and look at me. Get away from your desk. We have magic here. Like, this is amazing what's happening. So really what happened for us was a couple years in, we had created a product. We started using that marketing automation. We always had the CRM, but we started using the marketing automation. And that was a total game changer. So that's when I saw it. I had heard customers talking about it, but I experienced it firsthand, the difference of chasing people with sales conversations versus sending out marketing communications and having them contact me when they were ready.
Which is amazing. Inbound leads were born.
Right.
It was awesome. I mean, literally, we had to do the same thing. Ron used to sell. I mean, Ron's nice and retired now. He's living the good life, off on motorcycle trips every week and doing all sorts of fun things. But back when he had to sell, and he was the main and only salesman, I shouldn't say main, only salesman, right? And he would be selling. And I remember when we started having people contact us and they were ready to buy, he would be selling. And they literally, people would say to him, stop, Ron, stop. I'm sold.
Don't sell past
I'm
yet.
sold.
Right.
I'm sold.
Yes.
And we were, there was like a book. We're like, we bought this book. Here, read this book. Stop selling when they're sold, And it's amazing when they actually are sold before or qualified before you get on the phone with them. I mean, cold calls is horrid.
Right.
We've all done that. And that was just now to have leads coming in the door. And that's the great thing for us. It's like constantly every month, consistently, I should say, we have over 200 to 300 leads come in through our Infusionsoft.
Awesome.
So all through our, and then into our campaign, our sales campaign, our guys, there's emails going out, there's videos going out. Our guys are getting on the phone. It's scheduling. It's linked up with calendars and also, I mean, it's just amazing. And I tell these young guys that we got in here doing sales, I'm like, you don't even know what sales is. You have never had to knock on a door or walk in a business or pick up the phone and cold call Microsoft to try to sell somebody something, and because they just have they come into the door and they open up their calendar and it's just appointment. And
that was the point, when you asked, well, what were the challenges we had to get through? We had to learn how to systematize our sales and marketing.
Right.
And the great irony is, well, that's what we do for our customers, but we hadn't learned how to create that system. What we were doing for our customers is we were creating the software for them, and then they were putting their process and their marketing collateral, and they were putting it all in there. Well, we hadn't done that.
Yeah.
So that was the big thing for us, and it took a couple years before we got to the place where we were systematically doing our sales and marketing using our software. And that began to change the business.
That's awesome. That's so amazing. Okay, so we know Infusionsoft. It is amazing, and the story is incredible. And I love that. I hope that more people now realize, like, don't look. I just posted something on Instagram the other day that was like the tip of the iceberg, right? It was today, I think it went out. Troy was telling me, and it's the tip of the iceberg. But they don't see. They see the top success. That top, like, now I've made it 1%. They don't see the huge iceberg underneath of the 15 or 20 years that you've been building this thing, you know. And so it's good, and I hope that more people realize, like, every business owner goes through these struggles.
Yes.
And you started with, like, how am I gonna buy my kids Christmas presents, which we all did. Troy and I and Ron all worked multiple jobs to build the businesses that we have today. We didn't just go from, you know, nothing to millions. We weren't Donald Trump and got small $1 million loan from our dad. You know, it wasn't like that. We had to build the thing up, and we had to work really hard. So we all understand that, because I feel like a lot of times people are just looking at us, looking at you guys, looking at these big companies, and it's like, oh, well, I could never do that, or I could never make it that far.
Yeah.
So now we know the Infusionsoft and what it has been. Why have we switched over to the name Keep?
Yeah, great question. So in order to understand it, you have to realize what our mission is and kind of what the journey is. So we had our Everest mission that took us through the end of, it was a 10-year mission, took us through the end of 2016. In 2017, and that mission was about being the leading sales and marketing automation software. It was about power. It was about being that leading player of powerful sales and marketing automation software for small businesses. And we love that. But as we looked beyond the Everest mission, we're a very long-term thinking company. And we said, okay, well, what's next for us? And we created our Mars mission that would take us from 2017 through 2030. And that mission is to simplify growth for 5 million small businesses worldwide by 2030. We knew we needed to create simple. We needed simple and powerful. We had powerful with Infusionsoft. We needed simple so that people didn't have to be a marketer or an established business to start with us and grow with us over time. So that's the reason why we recognized we needed to change the brand, because the brand was about power. And yes, we want power, but you've got to, most people start with ease and then move into power. It's a very small subset that will consume and buy the power right away. So the mission to simplify growth for millions of small businesses required a brand that would match that. So that's the first reason. Then the second reason was we recognized that in order to create a simple brand, it needed to be something that we could own, and it needed to speak to the purpose of what we do. You all know, you've heard me say many times, our purpose is to help small businesses succeed. It has been that way for, it wasn't on day one, but not too long into it, we realized, okay, this is what we're all about. So the reality is that running and growing a small business is really, really hard, and most people want to quit at some point. But you can't quit. Every successful small business has made it through those really difficult times. So I'll tell you what ours was. About 2 years in, I knew the business was going to be successful because we were using the software, and I was seeing systematically what it was doing for us and for our customers. For Charisse, my wife, who's amazing, she was not seeing it yet. And I would come home and say, "It's getting better, hon. It's getting better." And she'd say, "It's not getting better for me." Because
where's the money?
We were in such a hole that the business income was going up, but it wasn't. We couldn't yet translate that into take-home pay. So about 2.5 years in, about 6 months into where I knew this was going to work, I really believed it was going to work. Let me put it that way. She would say I was still delusional, but because I'm still taking home $2,000 a month, and we've got no food in the kitchen. So you got to understand, Charisse is a saint. She's super supportive, but she was saying, "Look, I cannot do this anymore. We have so much student debt. We have 4 kids. We are dying. Please, it's time to go get another job." And I had persuaded her for. She started saying that maybe a year earlier, and I was, telling her, hang in there. And then I started really passionately persuading her because I was like, no, this is going to work. But she couldn't see it. And that night she just, tearfully just said, "Please, you have to promise me." And she kind of played a little trick on me, I think. She said, "Maybe you can leave for a little bit and then come back." And my stubborn entrepreneurial mind, who didn't want to let go of the dream, said, well, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could leave for a little bit and then come back because I know this is going to work. So I said, okay, I saw that I wasn't going to win the argument. I love my wife more than I love our business. I said, you know what? I will go look for a job tomorrow. I promise I will do that. And this wasn't a civil, kind conversation. There were tears, there were raised voices, there was passion.
Books being flown.
Both of us crying. Like, this was a hard thing.
Yes.
I said, okay. After a couple hours of intense discussion, I said, okay, I will do it, hon. So the next day I went to work, and I fully anticipated and expected to look for a job. And I sat down and I was working my leads. I was working my system. I was following up with the people and calling the people that it was time to manually call. People had been receiving emails that were step 4 in the campaign, all that stuff. Yeah. And I was doing my work, and before I knew it, the day was over. I hadn't done one bit of job searching, and I walked out of the office and I felt awful. I hadn't done what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
And worse, I was afraid of what Sharice was going to say and how this was going to go. So I drove home, and that was an awful drive home. And I got home, walked into the house. Will never ever forget the day. She, I came into the room. She turned around, and she said, "Did you look for a job today?" And I said, "No." And she walked toward me, and she gave me a huge hug, and just squeezed me really tight. And I held her really tight, and then I tried to back away, and she held on to me really tight, and I tried to back, and she held on to me really tight, and she was crying, and I was crying, and I just said, what happened? And she said, just keep going. Everything's going to be okay. Just keep going. And that, I refer to that as the keep going story for me.
Yeah.
But it's not just my story. Every successful entrepreneur has a keep going story, if not a dozen keep going stories.
Yes.
And every struggling entrepreneur needs to hear them. Mm-hmm. So I decided, you know what, it's time to start telling that story. It's time for other entrepreneurs to tell that story. But most of all, we recognize that is what captures the essence of our brand to help small businesses succeed.
Yeah.
And so we named the company the easy version of our software where most customers would start. And we named it after that tenacity and perseverance that's required for small business success.
Yep.
And the message we share with everybody is keep going, keep serving, keep growing. We spell it with an A so we can own it and trademark it. Yep. And that's what keep is. And we will build that brand over the next decade plus as we work to achieve our mission to simplify growth for 5 million small businesses worldwide.
That's amazing. That's a great story. And that's so true. These business owners have to understand that, honestly, even the most elevated business owners, the people that we're looking at, the influencers of the world, a lot of them started at the bottom.
Yeah.
And they see that, again, 1%, but they don't realize. I had the exact same story. I was working my day job, making $700 a month. Our rent was $710 a month. I was $10 short every month.
I love it.
Yeah. We had 2 kids, and I'm like, I got to do something. And so we're trying to build this company, right? And I'm just telling my wife, it's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. And what I'm doing is I'm sleeping at the office. I'm working day job, and then I'm sleeping at night at the office, which, by the way, the office was Ron's house at the time. So I'm like sleeping back at mom and dad's. And after 1 year, it was 1 year, my wife calls me on the phone, and I pick up, hey, babe, how's it going? And of course, we've had many of these conversations. Yes. Like, first off, your day job sucks. Yeah, like, go get a real job, boy. Right. Stop making $700 a month. And then second, your idea of this business you're building is not going to work. Right. Right. And those were the conversations we had over the years. I'm like, no, it's going to work. It's going to work. So the phone rings. I pick up the phone. Hey, babe, what's going on? And I can just hear it. I can hear it. She's crying. It's in her voice. And she's like, I'm done. I'm just done. And she said to me, she goes, listen, you haven't been home once this week. We're about to have our 3rd child. You are not around, and you are not in their life. So you either come home, or you send a check home, or preferably you do both. Or when you do come home next, I probably won't be here. And I said, oh my gosh, no, don't leave me. I love you, and all this. And I'm like, same thing. This company is not worth it. This is not worth my marriage. I'll go out and get a job tomorrow. I don't care. I'll be a janitor. I'll work at McDonald's. I don't care. I have no shame when it comes, no pride when it comes to like my family. I am 100% for them, but I was so focused on the business, and I didn't mean to be that way, but I just wasn't coming home, and I wasn't giving them the attention and the time. And when she said it to me, I realized it. And so I went to these guys. And the thing is at that point, you had built a business that was making money, just like we had built a business that was making money, but you have to reinvest.
Right.
If you're doing it right, you're reinvesting it. And so I finally went to Troy and Ron and I said, listen, I've either got to go home and go get a job, or I've got to send a check home, or my wife is going to leave me. Yeah. And they were like, well, let's look at the company. And that's when we decided, after a year of building that business, we said, well, let's just cut a little piece off and let's start sending some home. Because anything at that point would have been a relief for my wife. You know, I mean, we were so super poor. It was ridiculous. Like $710. Like, oh my gosh, you can make that picking up change. I'm telling you, the people on the side of the freeway asking for money make way more than that. You know, I should go do that. But yeah, so every business and owner and entrepreneur has that or has experienced that, or at some point even will. Like a lot of people, they might have success, but then, I mean, as an entrepreneur, we do this.
Sure.
And they need to remember in those lulls that it's still okay and you can push through.
Yep. Keep going.
All right. So let's talk about the Keep product. Can you give us kind of an overview of what the Keep product will do for the small business owner?
Yeah. So the reason why I'm so excited, as I was sharing with you before, is because we now have a product line that can serve small businesses and meet them where they are, and they can grow with us over time. They don't have to be a marketer or a big established business to get Infusionsoft. They can start with Keep Grow it's an all-in-one sales and marketing solution. So it has a lot of the same tools and capabilities. It's got the strong CRM, really elegant, beautiful mobile capabilities, and you can do the invoicing, and you can do payments, and you can do you can do all of those things, but it doesn't have as much of the power. It gives you a little bit of the power.
Yeah.
But what we're not trying to withhold it from them. It's just that they're not ready for it.
They're not ready.
They can't handle it.
Absolutely.
So we give them a little bit of the power. We help them get organized and follow up and do a little bit of automation.
Yeah.
And then over time, if they want to upgrade to Pro, then they get the campaign builder and some of the automation. And then if they want to get the full automation with all the bells and whistles, then they go to Infusionsoft. So
that's awesome.
Sometimes people think, because when we announced Keep, we didn't have the full product line yet, so people thought, oh, it's Keep or Infusionsoft. Is it? No.
It's all one product.
It's all one product line. It is all one product. It's actually one unified product back end, and over time you'll see the front end be more unified as well. So it's a progression path. The whole idea is to create the growth platform for small businesses, where they can start with us, where whatever makes sense for them, and then get more power and grow with us over time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I've logged into both of the Grow and the Pro, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, it's so simple. Like you said, it's so elegant. I was like, and that's what people don't understand is people, like with SoTellUs, will say like, oh my gosh, like, this is so simple. And it's like, yeah, you don't understand how hard it is to make something so simple.
$2 million later, it's so simple.
It is so hard to do simple. And we, especially when you create something that's, it's got all of this power and you've got $100 million business behind it, to go create the simple version is not, it is no small feat.
Oh yeah.
And so we went through bringing in people from the outside and blending it with the talent inside and going through a lot of turnover and change. It is really, really tough, but I'm so thrilled with where we are now. And it's so fun to get review after review after review that talks about easy and beautiful and even fun. It's so satisfying. And we're just, Scott and I as co-founders are just thrilled because we now have the product line to go achieve the big mission that, frankly, we've talked about this mission for a long time and didn't have the full product line to do it. Because we knew a few years ago, we won't be able to get to millions with the powerful, sophisticated, amazing solution that Infusionsoft is. You got to have a full product line that starts with easy in order to get to millions. So
that's awesome.
It's really fun. It's super gratifying to get that. It's fun to see the reviews and hear people talk about it. It's really easy to get started. It's really intuitive, and I think the biggest thing is that Keep Grow is mobile first, and so it's all about that mobile experience.
That's awesome,
and that's how people are running their businesses today.
And I really feel like Keep speaks to just how good of a business Infusionsoft is, and I am serious when I say like it. when you said it's not easy to go from mammoth to then, hey, let's take it and like simplify over here and do this, that is purely out of what you guys have, your focus and your vision, right? But also what you were getting from customers and from potential customers of what they needed.
Yeah.
So that is not something that businesses do anymore, especially big businesses. I mean, how many times have I yelled and screamed at Facebook because it's not doing what I want it to do?
Right.
You know, but they don't listen. They don't care.
Well, the other
whereas
thing,
you guys do.
Well, thank you. We do care. Our number one core value is we genuinely care.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I learned through the process is, first of all, you can't take the powerful, sophisticated solution and try to dumb it down.
Yeah.
You can't do it. We tried to do that. It didn't work. We had to actually build it. We had to take all the knowledge and learning and then build it fresh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, we built it on the same back end so we would have the same platform, but that was a really tricky thing. The second thing was the people who understand power and sophistication inside your building, your engineers, your product people who built that, they're not the same ones who can build the simple. Yeah. And so you need them. And so then so we actually went through 3 rounds of trying to get to where we are.
Oh, wow.
And the first round we tried to kind of simplify and take what we had learned. The second round we tried to create something with a new group of people where we didn't really incorporate all the learnings and the secret sauce of what Infusionsoft is. And we brought in a bunch of outside talent to do that. But the third round, we actually got the blend right. And the thing is, I credit some of the great people that we brought over from Intuit. Terry Hicks, who was our Chief Product Officer and COO for a long time, as we built this, he understood what was necessary to create simple. And Scott and I would look at stuff, we'd see designs, we'd be like, "That's awesome," and he'd be like, "No, it's got to be no." He just kept pressing and kept pushing. Awesome. And because to us, incrementally, it was much better.
Sure.
So we're like, oh, that's way easier. Yeah. But it wasn't enough. And so he kept driving, kept pushing. And he brought, and several of other leaders that we brought from the outside, folks from Apple, folks from Intuit, people who understood elegant design of software and of technology and the interface for consumers. They really came in and helped us. They brought that design capability. And our team internally that had been there for a long time, they brought kind of the secret sauce and the understanding of making follow-up a reality for people. Because when you get right down to it, what we're talking about is getting organized, following up, and then automating. That's what it is.
Yep.
And getting that right blending all of that in a really simple, elegant solution that can scale to be a very sophisticated solution for those who want it. That, I will tell you, is harder than anybody understands. And it would have gotten the best of almost any entrepreneur, I believe.
Yeah. So. And one of the things I was so impressed with when I got in there was, and I don't know what you guys call them, but I felt like the system gave me like these little nudges.
We call them nudges.
Is that what it's called?
We do. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So it was like, okay, I did this. And then it kind of nudged me like, oh, maybe you should do this now.
Right. And
maybe you should, connect with this, maybe send an email out to this person or a follow-up. And I was like, this is like having somebody there, like this assistant or some amazing marketer tapping me on the shoulder going, okay, go do this now.
Well, you said it exactly right, because here's what happens. The reason why people get confused sometimes with Infusionsoft is if you don't have a process built out, or if you don't have a process-oriented marketing mind, it doesn't make sense. You have to pre-think all of this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were telling me about your experience implementing Infusionsoft a decade ago. And what did you do? You went to a hotel, holed up for 3 days, wrote out all your campaigns.
Yep.
And I told you my story. What did I do? I got up in the loft and I started writing my. Well, that requires a certain level of systematic, proactive, or process-oriented thinking.
Yes.
That most small businesses don't. They're just not going to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what we had to do is we knew that follow-up is the name of the game, and personalized automated follow-up is the name of the game. But with Infusionsoft, we relied on our customers or coaches or partners to help small businesses do that.
Yeah.
With Keep, and specifically Keep Grow, we had to guide them through it. So Keep Grow is simple guided automation, whereas Infusionsoft is powerful, customized, sophisticated automation.
Yeah.
And getting that right, it required us to create a really easy interface,
Yes.
But then to take the knowledge and understanding we have to prompt people and move them along, to take the best practices of what we saw other people do and then say, look, you want to do this now.
Yes.
You want to do this. And if you make it really easy where they can do it with 1 or 2 taps on their cell phone, then they're going to do follow-up. And follow-up is the name of the game. If they follow up, they will grow. Yeah. So we had to make it really easy for small businesses to do that in a simple, guided way.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the other thing, too, like we made a really good point there, too, of, some of the top marketers in the world use Infusionsoft. Mm-hmm. So you get to see what they do and what makes them successful, what marketing works. And then you're distilling that down into Keep, which is exactly what I felt like when I went in there, was I had this expert marketer there nudging me to do the next thing that I needed to do. So that's great amazing. Job on that.
That's awesome. I love hearing those responses. It's fun to hear it from someone who has done all that work and knows what that looks like in Infusionsoft. And then, then you can see the simplified version of that's guided, where you don't have to rely, where the user doesn't have to bring that expertise to the table.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you can't, they only know what they know.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Yep.
And so, and you hit on one thing that I wanted to just real quickly touch on too, is the follow-up. The follow-up is key in our sales campaigns. We have, of course, so we have sales meetings every week, right? With our staff and our team. And it was like we were telling these guys, like, look, it's prompting you to do this because it's valuable.
Right.
And so some of these younger guys, they thought that they knew better and this and that. Well, we told them, we said, I challenge you to really follow this follow-up process and implement it this month, and let's see what happens. And that month, I know it was over 37% of the sales came from the follow-up.
Yes.
But 2/3.
2/3?
2/3 of their closed sales came from follow-up.
That's pretty common. Yeah.
Yep.
You can triple by following up effectively. If you
and
follow
I said, wow. Yeah, maybe you can learn something from these older dogs. Like follow-up works. Yes. And guess what? Your job is so easy. Well, that's awesome. So one last question. We know you are cut for time, but how easy is it for somebody to set like the new versions of Keep up or the new versions, these new program systems?
Yeah, it's really easy. It's really intuitive. We also give you a coach to help you through that process if you need it. Many don't.
Yeah.
Some do. It's more about kind of business coaching in a lot of cases than it is like, it used to be with Infusionsoft, we had to do a lot of teaching the software, whereas we still do that with customers that sign up for Infusionsoft. And by the way, like, just to be perfectly clear, hopefully I've made this clear. We love Infusionsoft.
Oh, yeah.
Our customers that use Infusionsoft pay us more than any other customers.
Yes.
We have lots and lots of customers on Infusionsoft.
Yes.
We are improving Infusionsoft. We continue to improve Infusionsoft. Infusionsoft is here to stay. You can stand up forever. Can you tell I need to make sure people understand? Because people thought Keep was replacing Infusionsoft, which is understandable when you have the name change.
Sure.
But no, Infusionsoft is the high-end version of our software that will be here forever. And so that is... We sell people on Infusionsoft every day.
Absolutely.
People are buying Infusionsoft, and it's because if you're more sophisticated marketer or if you're a more established business, that's the right product for you.
Right.
Yeah, if you had said that you were going to stop Infusionsoft, we'd have just turned your mic off right now.
Goodbye.
Because you just ruined our business.
Right, yes. No, we are committed to Infusionsoft.
Yeah.
And honestly, and in fairness to customers who might have developed that perspective, last year, we had to put so much into getting the Keep product out that we weren't doing as much on Infusionsoft. And so people felt a little bit of that neglect and they were frustrated. And so I understand when people had that, or, people drew that conclusion. I can see how they would if the company's getting called Keep and you haven't been doing as much on the product. Well, surely, no. All I need to say is, I have investors. They really like customers that that buy Infusionsoft because they spend a lot of money.
Yes.
And we need the Keep Grow and Keep Pro products so that we can have that full product line and we can achieve the mission to simplify growth for millions.
Right. And it's going to stair-step people up.
That's right.
It's going to help their businesses grow so that they can go from the one-man show with all the hats to the 4 trucks and the 10 trucks and to the whatever it is and keep growing into that bigger space.
Right.
And then they can go to Infusionsoft and they can get the power of that we've been experiencing for the last, 10, 12 years, whatever it is now. It's incredible. Infusionsoft is amazing. I know we didn't get it frustrated with it last year. It just runs. It is such a well-oiled machine for us. I tell people all the time on the podcast or in consulting and all this stuff that I wake up in the morning and I just open my email and it's order, order.
It's a beautiful thing.
And it's a beautiful thing. And I go out of town. We go on these vacations. We go away for months at a time. And our company doesn't just, stay stale.
Right.
It continues to grow.
Yeah.
I've coined it a bulletproof business.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to go into the job every day, you have a job. You don't work for yourself. You're working, you're slaving away. All you've done is go from 40 hours to 80 hours or 100 hours, right. and you're still in a job.
Right.
But if you can walk away from the business, and it will continue to grow and be a well-oiled machine, and the orders just come in, you have built a bulletproof business. I recently had back surgery. My back exploded on me 6 months ago, out of the blue, just walking to my kitchen, and I landed in bed for 6 months. I'm just recently back. And I've shared that story with everybody, and that's where I really started to push this whole bulletproof business, is because in that 6 months, the company did better than it had ever done before.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe I should just get out of the way. I'm probably the problem. So I should probably lay in bed more often. But it was amazing.
The automation's the answer.
The automation was the answer. It was so amazing.
Yes.
So, well, I got to tell you, Clate, this has been so fun. This has been so amazing. We'll have some way for all of our listeners to get over to the Keep product, probably SoTellUs.com/Keep or something like that. Or even just go to Keep. It doesn't matter. We don't care. Keep.com, or is it still?
Yep.
Okay.
Keep.com.
Yeah, we don't care how they get there. We just want to preach it. We want to share it with everybody. We're so excited to be able to now say to our clients, like, hey, look, this is perfect for you because you're at this level, and then you're going to go to this level and this level, and it's going to be amazing for us. So thank you for coming out and sharing with us.
Thank you for having me. I know we went a little over time, but you did want me to share one tip.
Yes.
With business owners.
Thank you.
Here's the tip that I would say. If you will just put these 3 basic follow-up programs in place in your business, you can make them super basic. It will change your business.
Yeah.
So number 1, and this is you might hear. People are going to hear this and say, "Oh, that's so simple." I'm telling you, this is simple on the other side of 18 years of complexity.
Yes.
And here's the simplicity. A new lead campaign that's 3 steps. 3 simple steps. You get a lead and you have 3 follow-ups to move them to, it can be to a phone call to you, it can be to a purchase page, whatever it is, but move your leads to that next action. Get lead follow-up in place. 3 steps. Don't make it a 27-step campaign.
Yes.
Your guys' campaigns look amazing, I'm sure. It doesn't have to be that sophisticated. Simple 3-step lead follow-up. That's number 1. Number 2, new client follow-up. When a customer signs up with you, a client signs up with you, put a simple follow-up program in place. It can be, again, 3 steps. Check in with them after 1 week. Check in with them after 1 month. Check in with them after 3 months.
Yes.
Simple as that. Or a year if you want to do that. New client follow-up.
Yes.
It is amazing. Just do it, please.
Yes.
Please do it. You will grow. And the last one is simple long-term nurture.
Yep.
So this is, it's in the old world, it was a physical newsletter that went out once a month.
Yep.
In the world a few years ago, it was an email newsletter that went out once a month. You can do email newsletters if you want. You can do some kind of text thing, whatever.
Yeah.
Just send something once a month. It is amazing how many leads you will bubble up, how much business you will bubble up, how much more you will close if you will put those 3 basic follow-up programs in place. Don't go blow your brains with all the complexity you can do with Infusionsoft and all sorts of stuff. Just get basic follow-up in place. And the reason I say that is I'm so passionate about helping small businesses grow, and I know if you do that, you will grow, period.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is from there, all it takes is getting started.
Yes, because then you start. Well, that's my secret trick. Because I know if you do those 3 little simple basic 3-step campaigns, you'll start to see the results. And then you'll go, oh, I should create a separate campaign for the lead source for these leads. And I should do a different campaign. And you'll start to gradually branch out and create more sophisticated follow-up, but that sophisticated follow-up will help your business grow more, and you'll do more sophisticated follow-up, and it'll help your business grow more. So it is a little bit of a trick I'm playing, but it's also because it totally works.
It totally works.
Please do those 3 basic. And if you never use our product, that's fine. I'm not saying because I want you to use our product. I'm saying it because you will get better and you will grow.
Absolutely.
If you do that basic follow-up.
That's right. And so you can it's the who versus you. So if you don't want to spend all of your time trying to craft emails every single time you get a new customer and try to write up an invoice every time you get a new customer and all this stuff, if you don't want to do that anymore, it's very simple. It's the who, and the who is Infusionsoft and Keep. right?
That's it.
Awesome.
You guys are awesome. Thank you. This is fantastic. I feel like I want to take this back to our employees and check this out. It's so fun.
Absolutely. We're going to have to do it more. We'll have to have you back because you are a wealth of business knowledge and there's just so much that you can share and help. So we will definitely have you back on. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much. This has been such an informative and great podcast. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please listen to it multiple times because there are golden nuggets all throughout this. And I say it's like the event people. They go to these events and they're event junkies and they eat it up, and then they go home and they implement nothing. So I don't want you guys to be event junkies, podcast junkies. I want you to listen to my podcast, grab 1 or 2 nuggets out of it, probably the last nuggets that Clate just laid on you, bam, and implement that. And then come back to the podcast, listen to it again, grab another nugget, share this podcast, take a screenshot on your phone, share it out to the world because other people just like you need to grow. They need this information, especially this new direction that Keep is going. They need this. You will help them. And by helping others, we help ourselves. We all grow together. All ships rise. It's been amazing. Thank you so much, Clate.
Thank you, guys. Great time. Thanks so much for all you're doing.
Thanks, Troy.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys. We will see you soon. Remember, we're on Apple and Google, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, everywhere. Share it with your friends. Subscribe. We'll talk to you guys later. Oh, and check out our Instagram. So tell us time. What? See you guys.